Loan approval is a process, not an event. Well, why do I say this? I realize that the home buying process, and in particular, the mortgage process, can be intimidating. It can be pretty intense. It can be a little frustrating at times. So it's important to remember that, unlike some other loan processes you may go through, the mortgage process does take place in phases. And you don't have your final approval generally until right before your closing time. Well, what do I mean by this? Well, the first thing you're going to do, you really should do before you start shopping for a home, is to get pre-qualified. And this generally just involves the lender you would fill out an application or a questionnaire. The lender's going to review that and review your credit. The lender may or may not review all of your application documents, like your pay stubs and your W-2s and your bank statements. The pre-qualification is really just based on the information you put on that application and generally your credit report. The next phase is the underwriting phase. And I completely and strongly recommend that you find a lender that does upfront underwriting. What does this mean? This means your file will be reviewed by a human underwriter before you have identified the property that you want to buy. And trust me, your life is going to be the process is going to be a lot easier. Your life is going to be a lot less stressful if you do this up front. But the underwriting phase just involves a human underwriter reviewing all of your documentation as well as the information you put on your application, which you would think, those two would coincide with each other, but not necessarily. So, for instance, if you filled out the application and let's say you've been working 20 hours of overtime for the past 8 weeks, so you put down on your application 20 hours of overtime. But last year you only worked 5 hours of overtime a week. So the underwriter's got to calculate your income, and the underwriter's not going to be able to give you credit for 20 hours of overtime because you've only been doing that for 8 weeks. They're going to average your income. Sometimes employment always requires verification. Sometimes income requires a higher level of verification with your employer. So that's a process that has to be gone through as well. So after the pre-qualification, the underwriter is going to review your documentation and issue a conditional loan approval. Why do we call it conditional? Because some of those other things have to be done, like you're verifying your employment, verifying possibly additional verification of your assets you're using for closing, verification of your income by getting your IRS tax transcripts. There's also a lot of stuff that has to be done around the property you're buying. So, when you identify a property, generally an appraisal has to be done. You've got to get homeowners insurance. You've got to have a title search. The lender's got to have a title search, title insurance. All of these things have to be done as well. And you're going to want to do some vetting on the property as well. You may have some inspections you want to have done. So again, that's called, once the underwriter reviews it, it's a conditional loan approval, conditioned upon all of these things being verified and all these verifications being in the file. So once all that is done, the file then goes back to the underwriter's desk for the final sign off, and that's when you receive your final approval. You're clear to close, and you're ready to close on the home and become the home buyer. But lots of times the final approval only takes place maybe a few days before the closing. So that's why I say it's really important to remember that it is a process. There's a lot of things that have to be done before you get to the final approval step. Unlike, if you go out and buy a car, you can fill out your credit application, you're going to drive away same day. Generally, it doesn't work like that for the home buying process. So I hope that helps you understand. If you have any questions, my contact information is on the channel homepage. Please feel free to reach out. I'll be glad to help in any way I can. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.